Welcome back to Battersea Poltergeist, discussed by my sister Becky. Hello, Becky.
Hello.
And myself. And we are on episode 6 of Danny Robbins' podcast. I implore you to check out that episode first, so then we can explain together. So this episode, if you're up to date now, kicks off with a domino hitting Bill Bungay at 30 East Drive in a completely different case. He's the director of When the Lights Go Out. Have you seen that movie, Bex?
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's the film of the Black Monk of 30 East Drive.
Yeah.
Now, the director now owns the house, and you're possibly aware that it is very much rented out to ghost investigators.
Yeah.
Milked beyond recognition. And I've been myself. I went with Sue. I went before one of the earliest times with another team. And because we were friends with that ghost hunting team, I've probably told this story before, I said, can Sue and I go in before anybody of the public, and even you? I want to go in first.
What did they say?
And they went, absolutely, yeah, no worries, got yourself out. So Sue and I got maybe 10 minutes in there before everybody else. Now, there's a coal cupboard, like a pantry, but full of coal. And that was where somebody in the family was attacked. So I went, I think Sue was looking upstairs and stuff. And I went in that I shut the door.
Of course.
I put my back to it and I was like, okay, if you're sure yourself, nothing happened. Fair enough. I didn't expect it to. But upon looking around the kitchen, a very council housey kind of feel, low income family. You go upstairs and it's just like a regular house that anyone would have lived in. Children's bed, I remember, was broken, like, when you've had beds for ages, it's like, this bit's knackered. Yeah. Pretty much like no one lived there, so it was an empty bed for him and very few knickknacks. Cut to the next time I saw it on Most Haunted. It was different. I'm like, that's actually a proper bedroom. No one's living there. So why is that now a proper kid's bedroom? Cut to another video I saw later. The living room now had like creepy clocks and creepy Halloween-y, and I'm like, why are people well, I know why. They're dressing up. They're dressing it up. As it's getting more popular, they're actually putting props in almost.
Yeah. Which, if it's one of the most haunted buildings, do that really.
You just leave it, don't you, as it really was. And then the last time I saw it, there's like plaques and pictures and evidence posted all over the lounge wall, more like a shrine. And
it'd be more, if I went, I'd find it more scary if it was just as it was.
Yeah. So now it's more of a Halloween dress-up mockery of itself.
And so, in short, did anything happen when you were there?
Well, as you know, we're the best investigators in the world. That's, But it was a case of, we were guests with another team. That team was running a public event, and those public were regulars of the team we went with, and they were around the dining room table, and they made the classic mistakes of saying, is the Black Monk here? Not giving anything a chance. Or if there is something there, it's going to say, sure, I'm the Black Monk you want. You know what I mean? Why are you such a bastard? Why are you? Oh, so you're riling it up and telling it who it is. And I was just like, it's a shame, isn't it?
That's a shame. Obviously, leading it.
Yeah, I sat back out with the K2 in the kitchen's armchair. And I was getting hits. I was like, that's weird. Sue of our team, she went back again, and she is always much more, I think there's something there. And I totally trust Sue, but my memory of it is always with a sour, waste of time note. But I, put myself in the cupboard, and me and Sue sat upstairs on our own and asked out. Didn't really get anything to write home about in this. Yeah. So basically, Bill Bungay makes a lot of money off this house, and it advertises his film. And you can put that into the mix or not. But he echoes, I don't know if you remember Enfield Poltergeist, a journalist went there and had a Lego brick thrown at force at his head. Well, he's basically echoing exactly the same thing. I went to this house and domino hit me exactly in the head, and make of that what you will, who knows. And he said to Danny, it's 7 out of 10 for Danny witnessing activity in this house. It wasn't when I went, but that's one time. And we've had investigations where you go to a same location. And don't get me wrong, I would love for our team to have it for a night or two.
Yeah.
I just would not pay for the money, and I would be looking at it going, why have you put all that stuff there now? You know what I mean? Anyway, that's that out of the way. So Danny summarises about scratches on Shirley, our young girl of the Battersea Poltergeist. Do you remember there was those scratches on the dad after the fire, and the doctor said it looks like he'd been clawed?
Yeah.
Fascinating, right? So the media were all kind of poo-pooing Shirley and all that. It was all kind of going the wrong way for the family. So Bill in the East Drive says that he's never actually been properly attacked, but he knows of people getting carried out, and they've actually quit investigating. So, there's always the case, as these cases run parallel, that's why we're running, they're very similar, poltergeisty attacking, just as our Donald Poltergeist.
Very similar.
Yeah, they're very similar. So who's to say, really, at this stage? Cut to our reconstruction, and Chib is under the table in the kitchen, because that's apparently where he slept. He would sleep on the kitchen floor. Completely devoted was Chib. And the next progression in the investigation is Chib and Shirley stay up late at night and put down lettered cards on the kitchen table. Our first kind of Ouija board.
Yeah.
But rather than doing a glass, they are getting knocks from Donald, and they move a pen around the letter, this, B, and wait for the knocks, which, if you're a patient person, I'm sure is good evidence. And I've put it down for us to try, off, no stream, so no pressure to perform, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, let's just be patient, because on a stream, you might try that for 5-10 minutes and then think, let's move on. But I'd love to get knocks.
It'd be great. That would be great, as long as it didn't want to spell anything lengthy out.
Yeah. It'd be quite painful when you've got a Ouija board.
Yeah, it's easy.
But I've always wanted knocks. So that's how they get these messages, apparently. Somebody asks, so what if he can't spell? Which would be quite an annoying thing. We always get that when we get some gobbledygook. Somebody says, what if they're dyslexic? It's just obvious,
Really young.
What if you're a kid? Yeah. We have had that play out, as if, haven't we?
Yeah. And they use that maybe adults wouldn't use.
They use words, yeah. So Shirley commends Chib and says that she trusts him. I trust you're going to get to the bottom of this, which is a lovely little trust thing there between them two. And Chib's like, look, what about we find another person to come? And Shirley's like, everyone just takes mick out of me, gets quite annoyed. And then eventually they settle on Joyce Lewis, the young reporter who was mentioned in episode 3. They send an invite, and in comes Joyce and her boyfriend, a policeman, skeptic, Steve, who's going to spend the night on the stairs.
Yeah.
So, seems like a clever idea, doesn't it, to get somebody skeptical in, or a journalist as well.
And you'd like to think that you've got a police officer there who you'd hope is pretty trustworthy as well,
Yeah.
And also from her perspective, she probably felt, well, at least he's hopefully able to protect me. If he's a policeman, if there's something funny going on, hopefully he'll be there to be able to help if anything goes wrong. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a good idea because he can see that no one's gone in or pulling strings or throwing things on the wall.
Yeah.
Shirley's like, she was nice. She was about 23 and we clicked, so absolutely, she's great. Shirley was very keen to show that I am not doing this,
Which you would,
Yeah. After the press have sort of said, it's you clicking your toe, and it's all like laughed off now.
Yeah, I'd want to well.
It's like, we don't know yet whether Shirley was faking it. But as we discussed when we got to those scratches, it was like, if that's the case, that's beyond Shirley, isn't it? Fires starting and stuff. Joyce, it turns out, the journalist, is actually a believer because she saw a little old lady when she was young who smiled at her and looked confused. Now, I've mentioned before a little interesting story I wanted to drop in here about when I interviewed Dave Schrader of TV fame. He told us about one old woman having said that she saw 3 figures, black shadowy figures, walking into her house once upon a time. That was one ghost story. And then later on in the same house, 3 people claimed to have seen an old woman shape sitting in the chair. And it was like time loop.
So an old lady saw 3 people going into the house.
Yeah, sort of stood as she was sat in her armchair and she saw 3 shapes in the living room. And then years later, 3 people saw an old woman sitting in the chair. And it's like, hang on, were they seeing each other over eons?
That blows my mind a bit.
Yeah, but it's a fascinating concept,
yeah,
isn't it? Anyway, so it's bedtime. Joyce holds Shirley's hand and has her feet between her own legs.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably, completely, it's no offence to Shirley, but those harsh ways are going to help her, aren't they?
For her to be able to report that it's absolutely not Shirley, she has to know.
Yeah.
It helped, and Shirley must understand. I'd understand that. I would want to as well if I was telling the truth.
Yeah, you'd accept it, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, well, there's no faking possible now. Back to 30 East Drive, and there's a ghost hunter called Jane Harris, just like we had in our team.
Yeah.
20 years of investigating poltergeists being her speciality. She splits people up into smaller groups, the few who were there. And Danny's twinned with this guy called Barry John, and he's a psychic medium. And he does say there's something about that bedroom at 30 East Drive that he just doesn't like. And it scares him. Fair enough. Danny's like, I don't feel anything because he's not, psychic. And then on a break, Danny talks to Dave and Jess. And Jess was on an event here and had back pain suddenly. And she has a pictograph. What the hell is one of those? A photograph of 3 scratches on her back, which are like 1 centimetre thick.
Yeah.
And Danny looks at the photo and be like, yeah, it was to say you could have just been leaning against something and you've got indentations, but it's annoying, isn't it? Any evidence that you present somebody...
Just to say, well, it wasn't.
Just say, well, might not have been. You might have imagined it. You might have hallucinated.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to disprove.
Yeah. So how would you feel if you came on an investigation with us and then got 3 scratches on your back?
I'd be really scared, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it would shake me up. And I think at that point, I'd be trying to retrace my steps to think, second guessing myself. But if I knew for a fact that I did not, it was not, I hadn't lent on anything or I hadn't, it was, and I felt it really was paranormal. Yeah, it would really scare me.
It would, yeah.
Or always asking for someone to slap you or scratch you. Yeah. How would you feel?
Thrilled.
You're a nutcase, though.
Well...
And there's not much better evidence than that. If you ask for it and it happens there and then.
Yeah.
But you put it on there and straight away people are like, well, one of the team did it.
Yeah, or you did it to yourself, or it's a setup.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't happened in 13 years is Halloween this year since we went on that first investigation together. 13 years.
God.
So nothing, we have not been scratched in 13 years to show that if it suddenly happened, it's like, I would have faked it earlier. You know what I mean? We kind of stopped asking for scratches ever since York when we said we would stop doing things like that.
Probably for the best, because you want something that's maybe a bit more malicious than you want.
Yeah. And Danny starts to say that he feels a bit left out with all this talk of people have witnessed this and that. He's like, I want to witness something. Cut back to Joyce writing, and we have her report of what happened. Which is a fantastic thing because all this dramatisation is through Danny's editing eyes and whoever wrote the script and delivery. So this is word for word. Midnight, went to bed. 12:15, something is under the bed, and Shirley's like, yeah, it happens every night. This scratching. There's an icy cold, and the sheets start to move off you. Now, icy cold, me and you have witnessed icy colds.
Oh, yeah, we have, yeah.
And... explain was it not a draft, Bex?
It's not like any it's not a draft. It's like if you suddenly were placed next to a freezer with the door open. It's not like a breeze, it's just cold. You can put your hand almost into it and it's just freezing, but you could probably go above to the left and it's just in a specific place. It just comes over you, doesn't it? It just
washes over you.
Yeah.
So again, that sounds like a breeze, but it's suddenly like, it's gone so cold.
To the point where you can start to almost shiver,
Yes.
It's
Exactly what happened at doggy daycare last time I was there the other week.
oh really?
Freezing. I was like, I am so cold, and your lungs are filled with fresh outside cold air.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah.
and for hours and nothing's happened.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so surreal when that happens.
Yeah. 12:22. A scraping gets violent under the pillows because they're sleeping in the parents' bed because it's double. And Joyce believes by now. And at that point, at 1 a.m. in the morning, they start to smell what starts off like violets and flowers and then turns to maybe burnt rubber and something foul. Have you ever had spiritual smells?
Do you know what? I don't think I have. I remember being really young and I remember smelling my grandma's, so my dad's mum's perfume. It was a really noticeable smell that was like a memory almost. You know,
Yeah.
I remember, but I don't know if I did smell it. I don't know if it was just something that was similar or that just. No, I don't think I can't say for sure that I think I have. Have you?
No, because I always try and unspoken, but I always think because I'm mostly women in my team and have been for all the time, it's like, oh, I hope they don't wear a lot of perfume. And I've had a couple of investigators do wear perfume, and I've tried to get used to it. But women have different perfumes. One day they'll wear one, and so I'm always like, I have got whiffs, but I'm always like, surely that's a perfume. I wear deodorant, believe it or not, and everyone else in the team wears deodorant. So there's kind of anything I do smell, I discount. But I'm on the flip side, I've never had, oh my God, that smells of death. What, no.
Yeah, like foul. I guess, and some people report sometimes smelling like cigar smoke or
Yes,
that thing.
I have smelt smoke. I have, yeah. But
which again is sometimes it's so hard to prove.
so hard.
It.
You're near roads, you're
Yeah.
near dodgy cars, people walking by with a cig.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, inconclusive. So Steve, the policeman, is called in and he checks for. He's like, he can't even smell it.
Right.
He's like, don't know. And that's like that cold we were saying. It's right on you. Maybe, you know, if there's a burning smell coming into a bedroom, I think a policeman would get a whiff of it.
Yeah, I think. Well, anybody just entering the room if they've been.
It's trapped in there, isn't it?
Yeah, walking in and it being if it's that foul, you'd think it would be able to smell it.
But he's like imagining things.
Yeah.
You know. 1:20. Shirley has a leg mark, 4 claws, and she's been holding her legs and her hands. So Joyce herself then has her ankle tickled. We have a witness. We have a journalist who knows that those marks weren't caused by her or Shirley. She's being tickled by unseen hands. Surely that's great evidence.
So, yeah. However, and I'm going to be one of those really annoying people now that's like,
You're going to be Chris French.
Karen O'Keefe.
Yeah.
But I've been in situations where me and Lucy, for example, have been in a room and we've been out in a graveyard and something will happen and you're on edge then.
Yeah.
So when we were at the graveyard and I saw the person walk past who we don't actually think was a person.
No.
But then from then on, that was it then. I was on edge. So me and Lucy went off by ourselves for like half an hour. Any little noise, I was like, so, and I'm pretty sure actually it was that time a moth sort of flapped next to me. Well, I know I almost hit the floor because it no jump. But had that not happened and had I not been had I just been walking through the park or down the street, it wouldn't have bothered me at all. But
no.
I was
alert
things to happen. So it could have been the sheet that tickled her ankle, for example. Just for example.
Hairs on each other's legs.
Anything, yeah. It could have been. I'm not saying it was, but it could have been. To me, it's easy for people to discount that. It's not something that I wouldn't walk away from that thinking it's haunted.
All right, but you're skipping over the 4 claw marks, Bex.
Okay, well, the claw marks there before. Did she check the legs before?
Didn't check before, did she?
So again, I'm not saying that they didn't happen, but to me, did she check her legs before? Could she have done it beforehand?
I'm quite one for getting an itch on the back of my calf in bed, and I big toe it, scratch. I can't get rid of the itch, scratch. And I get up the next day with massive red scratchings down my leg, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I didn't realise I'd damaged my leg that much. Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd itched, but Christ.
Quite easy to do it, really.
Yeah, because when you scratch something, it doesn't show red for an hour or something. I don't, you know what I mean?
So again, is that proof? I don't know.
Well, you pulled that out. Fair enough, shot that down. So Danny calls Kieran because he's like, ooh, what's going on here? Kieran says it's a psychosomatic condition caused by belief that you can make marks appear on yourself by believing that it's possible. Stigmata. Are you aware of stigmata? Oh, well, I was quite obsessed with it because all the books I got as a kid had stigmata in. People bleeding from the eyes, bleeding from where basically Christ's wounds, all the
Oh my God.
yeah. And science has proven that the mind, there's such a belief in religion, for example, you can actually make your body bleed by thinking so hard about it.
I guess it's almost like if you pull a sickie, you actually start to feel
Start to feel ill. I mean, yes, okay, that's maybe very low end.
But your mind can make you feel things, your body feel things.
Yeah.
Maybe that's probably not the best example, but I can see where he's coming from, and that I can understand that your mind is probably more powerful than you can imagine. Really, I didn't expect to make you bleed from your eyes.
But can you make? Yeah. Can you bleed? Yeah. You know what I mean? Now I'll give you another example. I have an air fryer, and on the tray inside there's 4 rubber feet, and Mum's husband said, "Oh, don't lose them feet, because it goes all wobbly." And next thing you know, I had 2. I'm like, have I eaten 2 feet? And then from then on, I started to feel pretty dodgy. I was like, I do feel weird. I do. I eventually found them. I've not eaten them, but yeah.
Sorry, you wouldn't know you'd eaten 2 pieces.
You've not seen how I eat, Bex. No, not necessarily. 2 only little rubber things. You got a mouthful of chips. Swallow, not chewing, just swallowing.
Do you chew your food?
I chew some of it.
Okay, so then you started to think, oh, maybe
yeah. I've eaten. Sure, I've eaten it. It's not in the bottom. It's not in the sink.
Oh my God.
I swallowed it, but evidently I haven't.
You hadn't.
But I started to feel sick
because
my body's like tasting rubber and wants to throw it up. Yeah, it hadn't. So that's a similar thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, not bleeding from the eyes, but your body, I think your brain can do strange things. It can play tricks on you.
Exactly. Thank you for queuing that up so beautifully. On a Darren Brown show, a guy, he stood with a guy and he says, there's a bread bin on the side. And he says, I'm going to remove your shoes and put them in that bread bin without touching you. And you were like, no, you're not. And he went 3, 2, 1, sleep. And this guy shut his eyes and he goes, right, take your shoes off, put them in the bread bin. And the guy took his shoes off, put them in the bread bin. He goes, right, 3, 2, 1, wake up. And he goes, right, done. Like, what? He looked down and he was like, how have you done that? He couldn't understand it. And you'd literally seen him take his own shoes off and put them in the bread bin. He had no knowledge.
Yeah, Darren Brown's amazing. And then again, like,
it's just hypnotism, It's not magic, is it?
But then in my mind, I'm like, well, was he an actor? But yeah.
No, hypnotism has been proven.
I'd love to be hypnotized. I'd absolutely love it.
You can only do certain people, can't you? Idiots. No, you can only do certain people who are susceptible to that, who want to have it done to them.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would be hypnotized because I'd be reluctant.
How does he find those people then? Does he actually...
I tell you what he does. I can tell you how he does it. You always get a huge number of people, an audience.
Yeah.
And then you will say certain questions like, think of a letter. Everyone think of a letter. Right. If you thought of O, S or P, put your hand up. If you thought of Q, Z, X, put your hand down. Most people think of a curly letter. No one thinks Q unless you're really trying to be pissy.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one. You've identified somebody who takes the most obvious route in the graph, the biggest column. If you remember me telling Jill, for example, close your eyes, imagine you've got a balloon on a string of helium and one full of lead, and her hand started to go like that, and I'm like, completely susceptible. Why is your hands going like that?
Yeah.
I'm asking you to imagine it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're pliable, you're usable. And so they basically whittle those down to like 2 or 3 people, and then eventually go, right, you, because you've done everything so predictably.
I do too.
You know, yeah, you just go along with it. You're like, yeah, whatever, yeah, sure, I'll go the easiest route. You know.
Clever. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting to know that.
Yeah. Where are we in this? The next part of the podcast is desensitization, where Danny and this young girl, Jess, opt to be the volunteers to what we've done. You put headphones on, you put blindfold on. Have you done that?
So I actually haven't. I've been there obviously when it's happened, and the more things that I watch on the telly, I think, oh, I should really do that. I should be the one to listen. But there's just something about having my senses taken away that is really frightening. And actually thinking, God, something could actually communicate with me properly into my ears. And then can you unhear that? I don't know. I mean, I don't, but yeah, I would like to do it.
Do you think that you would automatically in that position start to imagine someone around you, and that's enough? Like we said, the brain's very powerful, that you start to imagine, oh, the guy, I feel like there's a guy up there. Do you think you could do that yourself?
100%.
Yeah.
I think so. I'd have to really, like when I went into the cellar on my own, and when you do think, I think I have to physically stop myself thinking like that.
Yeah.
I can't relax. I have to almost tell myself, right, there's nothing there. It's fine. Just calm. I'm constantly trying to calm myself down in those situations. So I think if I had my blindfold on, headphones on, to really focus on almost just listening to the noise and try not to think about what was going on around me.
I think that's where I'm different from a lot of people. That my view is always nothing is happening now. Nothing is happening now. You know, I'm in the dark in the cellar with whatever on. I'm not picturing there's something here, maybe, or is there, or isn't there? I'm just like the opposite.
Yeah.
Until it's happening, there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening now. Not what might be, just, well, nothing's happening now. And not, you know what I mean?
Must stay in the present. Don't think
about
it.
Yeah. Don't, if you start thinking, oh, there might be something looming over me, well, you've lost, haven't you?
Awful. Yeah, that would be nice.
They start calling the spirit in East Drive Fred, just as a name. And she's saying, touch one of these two. Yeah, so they can't hear. Touch so-and-so on the left side. Great. I'm all for that. I think that's good. I think that's an excellent way to try and get some evidence corroborated. They don't know.
Do not do that to me, if I ever.
Wait a minute. We did do that to you in Victoria Hall. You were in a storeroom. I think that was the first time you'd ever.
You were asking it to touch me.
Yeah, I were out. I said go in there for as long as you can handle and film yourself, and you said that something moved near you.
Yes, I
do.
The
first time, and I was out there go in there and touch her and pull her hair.
I remember that. Yeah, I'd totally forgotten about.
So she's saying stand next to Jess or push Danny's chair, and nothing happens, unfortunately, to Danny. You know, right? 1:35. Back with Shirley. Shirley is asleep. Joyce says the bed starts to move and shakes, and then stops, but she logs it. I mean, Shirley is asleep. She's not rocking it, you know. 2:30 a.m. Shirley is pulled by the arm. She sees her arm sort of loll out of bed. She starts to wake. Steve, you were wrong. There is something here. Back to asking Danny and Jess how they felt under this. Jess felt something change at her left side, but as we've just discussed, some people will imagine it.
Yeah.
But maybe there was something there. I don't know.
Hard to know.
And Danny's like, I wish I had something happen to me there. But now, cut to my own thing here. I watched a series called 100 Humans, and program called Mindfield, and they both did the same experiment. They would take innocents into a room dressed up like a doctor's surgery, or, you know, white coats, sterile, and they would point this laser pen onto their hand and say, right, it's on 1 at the moment. How are you feeling? Oh, I don't feel anything. Right, are we all right to turn it up to like 5? How are you feeling now? Oh, it's starting to tingle. Well, look, we've never gone past 8, but am I all right to increase it up to 10? Oh, you know what I mean? It's starting to hurt. And they're like, it's just a red laser pen, mate. Nothing in it.
So that just shows your mind is just so full.
Yeah. But I've seen other things where they'll give them a false hand, right? And they'll sort of have a hammer and be like, is it a mirror one? Basically, they get you to hit yourself on the rubber hand, and you sort of instinctively feel the pain.
Really?
Because you get convinced that that is your hand. Or that's what they do. I tell you what they do. They have you look at the rubber hand, but you put your real hand on the other side of a glass. So when he's like, the sort of mimic, you're looking at the rubber hand being touched and stroked, but you can feel your other hand being stroked.
That is so clever.
And so when he goes, right, and now I smack you with a hammer, they only hit the rubber, but they're like, ah! And it's like, well, I'll never touch your real hand.
What?
Yeah.
Called?
Minefield and 100 Humans.
I'm actually
Brain Games is also an excellent series. YouTube has all of these. Netflix, I think, is 100 Humans.
I'll have to look at
Yeah. Right. Chib is like, well done, Donald, for coming through and giving us the evidence, to vilify, is that the right word? To prove that, Shirley's not lying. Shirley feels much better. Well, I've told the journalist, she's witnessed it.
Mm-hmm.
Job done. Chib is just becoming obsessed with Donald. It's taking up more and more of his time because Chib just thinks that this is going to be the case. It's going to be the making of him.
Yeah.
They're talking and stuff, and he starts to hear tapping. It's like, oh, what's that? Is that Donald? That's Donald. And what is that tune he's tapping out? And schoolgoer Shirley says it's Frere Jacques. And it seems rather strange that would be being tapped out.
Could be anything, really.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where it ends. But yeah, it sounds like she's singing along with this tapping, and it's a French song, which, as we go along, becomes more and more important. So, interesting, eh? Yeah. Joyce witnesses it. You still are entirely convinced.
Not yet.
We've discussed the power of the brain, and the plot continues to thicken as we go into episode 7 next.
Yeah.
Right.
Forward to it.
Thank you for joining me again, Bex.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in another video.
Yeah, see you later.